Associates for putting together that presentation. And now we have a really special opportunity to remember a very special partner of mine and Mark. You have to bear with me and us for a moment. So well, I guess we're going to jump a little ahead, but we wanted to take this occasion. Let me step back and say this occasion is one that often recognizes a retiring partner, and as such, we celebrate that person's accomplishments and encourage him or her to move ahead with what's going to happen next. Unfortunately, Rand was taken away from us too early. He fought a heroic battle. A year ago tonight, we were all sitting here, and none of us contemplated what we would be talking about this evening. But it seemed fitting to us that we have the chance to celebrate a really remarkable career and life of a very valued, trusted, and well-loved colleague. From my personal perspective, I had the pleasure of being in the office next to Rand for more than 20 years. I think, I can't tell you exactly when he moved into Don Sitz's office, but I know when I moved into the place where I am now, which was 1989, and when Don Sitz retired in the early 1990s, Rand took the opportunity to move into his office. Now, I have to set the stage for you all because we did a number of office renovations, and in the 1980s when we did a major renovation, we lowered ceilings and we took out the old lighting and we did other things. Don Sitz, who was in one of the offices, said, "I want to leave things just as they are." Don was a traditionalist. When Don retired, Rand said, "I want his office." And that's where he moved, which happened to be right next door to me. That office, because it did not have a false ceiling with sound baffling and other things that would absorb sound, I would say it was bright. And so, as we sat next door to each other, I could often hear many of the conversations Rand had with his clients, with Vicki, occasionally with himself, not an uncommon occurrence. We have a sort of a particular corner of the office where we shared a lot together. And it was a very special situation for us for a long time. Rand would bring his clients into his office, and there was a regular parade of people coming in and out. Clients, associates, partners who would all come to seek advice from Rand. He was a remarkable lawyer, a remarkable colleague, and he was well loved by everybody with whom he came in contact. I was in the office this afternoon and I was thinking about Rand and what I was going to say tonight, and it struck me that among Rand's remarkable talents, he was, as every great trial lawyer is, a great storyteller. And he used to love to tell stories about the way things were back when, including, for example, the story he used to tell about what my father used to say about Saturday mornings when people would come in to the office back in the 70s. Terry remembers this. This was a time when everybody would come into the office on Saturdays because we did business on Saturdays. And the associates would be expected to come into the office on Saturdays, and not only would they be expected to be there, but they'd be expected to sort the mail and put it in the mail slots. And somehow or other that tradition failed away. And Rand used to rail about the fact that there were no associates in the office. Where was the mail? You know, why wasn't it sorted today? And with the advent of email, although he had difficulty mastering it, he would send out sort of truncated messages saying, where's my mail today? And he would love to recount the story that my father used to say about how things developed in the 1980s, where he could go out in the 7th floor hallway and shoot off a round of grape shot and not hit an associate in the process. And he delighted in telling that story to every new associate who came in the door. But he was, more importantly, a mentor to every new associate who came in the door. And over time, those associates, those of us who grew up to be partners, would come back to him for advice, for counsel, and for guidance. He was somebody to whom we could go when we had a tough case or a tough issue that needed to be resolved, that needed to be handled. And we felt confident to turn it over to him and that he would handle it. And he had a special bond with the members of our staff. A very special bond which led them to produce and share with us at our annual employee recognition luncheon in December a video which I know that members of the Wonio family have seen, but a number of you have not seen, and which we'd like to share with you tonight. This is, for those of you who've seen the whole thing, a slightly truncated version of it, and the reason that we've shortened it up a bit is because some of it is difficult to see unless you're close. So, in any event, we'd like to run the video now, Andrea, if you would, and please enjoy these memories of Rand. I think that tells you something about Rand and about how the impression that he made on everybody with whom he came in contact, particularly those people with whom he worked every day, and most importantly, our staff members who obviously greatly loved Rand and everything that he shared with them. We wanted to have Vicki Rosso, Rand's longtime assistant, with us this evening, but some time ago she and her husband had planned a vacation for this weekend. She wanted to share a few thoughts and asked that we share them with you this evening. So this is from Vicki. I'm sorry I could not be here tonight. A few months ago, my husband booked our vacation for this week, So who am I to argue with such plans? I just wanted to say that, along with all of you, I miss Rand very much to every day. He was such a skilled and impressive lawyer, and he accomplished more in his lifetime than most people can only dream. He was not only the best boss an assistant could ever work for, but he was also a father to me. Although he said he wasn't old enough to be my father. His sense of humor could not be matched. He trained me how to be a better secretary. In fact, just knowing him made me a better person. I once told him that if I had $1 for every secretary who wanted my job, I could retire early. I think he really enjoyed hearing such a compliment. Right before and after he passed, I heard from former staff members from all over the country who were saddened by his loss. I also heard from former clients and experts from all over the country, even one from Italy. I cannot tell you how many people I witnessed him help over the years. Rand was such an inspiration, and he touched many lives. I was supposed to make his job easier, but he made my job easier. His death affected everybody here tonight, and I just wanted to say thank you to Rand's family and to the entire firm for their emotional support. Stan Cabot, Mike Byrne, Diane Putoff, and Debbie Collins have been especially helpful to me, more than I can express in words. I admire the litigation attorneys who doubled their workloads with Rand's files while enduring their own grief. Diane Reich and Abby Furlong have been great to work for and very patient with me as I learned how to do some things a whole lot different than Rand used to do. I'm sure he's smiling down now from heaven on that thought. There is an old proverb, say not in grief that he is no more, but live in thankfulness that he was. I know we are all thankful and very grateful that he was in our lives. I hope you will all raise your glasses and have a drink in his honor. Thanks so much, Peggy Rosso. Duran. There are a few people who would like to say a few words about Rand, and first is his longtime friend and colleague and partner, Mike Byrne. Mike?
Thank you, Dana. I didn't think I had a theme, what I was going to talk about, but when you watch the video and then you talk to people, the theme really is the little things. And you look at all the little things that Rand did for staff, and look what comes back years later, and what they say about him. And the little things that we do in life really do impact us. It's a tribute to Rand that these are the things that the secretaries are saying about him. It's not lawyers, it's the people that are working with us. I was at lunch the other day, and we were talking about tonight, and one of our partners said to me, Rand was our moral compass. In our firm meetings, we had tough issues, but yet Rand could say things that were difficult, and sometimes I'm thought of as being maybe more of the soft side of it, but Rand could say things that were hard, but he would say them in a way and that you know they were coming morally from the right place. The little things. 30 years ago, Bonnie and I came here to interview, and we went to dinner. And Rand and Jean were with us at dinner. And it was on the elevator on the way down from here. We were at the 11th floor having dinner. And Rand and Jean and I and Bonnie were talking. And it was things that Rand said to me that I remember till this day that are really part of the reason I'm here. And because it was people like Rand that said to me, this is a good place to be. After I started here, Rand and I played basketball together, we coached together. I'm Julia's godfather. He's been very special. So what I want everyone, find a mentor, find a friend. It's important in your life, and they'll guide you along the way. Thank you. Now, Terry wants to say a few words. I had the pleasure of practicing law with Rand for 38 years. I remember the day he first interviewed, and his beautiful wife Jean was sitting in the anteroom while Rand endured the room questionnaires and handled himself very well, and Jean was very pregnant sitting in the waiting room, a state that she had many times thereafter. It was a pleasure practicing law with Rand, and as Mike observed, he taught us some lessons that will serve us well going forward. And I can't remember in my career that any lawyer's retirement or death or passing was more mourned by the staff than Rand. Rand had a special way with the staff. He was a very ordinary guy who had a kind word for everybody. He knew every staff member's name, and he had a joke and a smile, and they loved him dearly. And that's a lesson we all could take. There aren't many of us that have that same accolade from the staff, and if we could come even a small way that Rand went with the staff, we'd be better people for it. The other thing is that Rand, I think, also taught us that you can have a great legal career, you can give your all to the law, and at the same time you can have a great family life. You can have a wonderful family, and Rand certainly has that, and the time he was able to spend with his family, I know, was the best times of his life, but his law practice never suffered. He had a wonderful partner in Jean, and I know he delighted in his children in attending their events and seeing them advance in their lives. My great sadness is that his grandchildren won't have the guidance for the next 20 years that I know he would have greatly given, but Jean and each of his children will pass that on because they were raised right. Rand had the right values, and wonderful guy. I guess lastly, I think that Rand gives a lesson to all of us as partners in this firm. Rand and I were kind of poor boys who came to the firm, and I remember Rand in the early years of his practice running around in an old Gremlin automobile, a hatchback that didn't have a rear window. It had a visqueen cover. And I had the pleasure of getting to know Jean's dad, Dick Couts, after Rand came to the firm. And one evening we were going to a basketball game, and I think Dick generously had provided out basketball tickets for Rand and me and a couple of others. And I said to Dick, I said, "What did you think when Rand first came around courting Jean?" And Dick rolled his eyes, and he was like, he was a little worried as a father, but Dick learned to love Rand and vice versa, and I think Dick quickly knew that he was a loving husband for his daughter and a great father for his grandchildren. And Dick was a great guy, and it's come through the generations. So I think the last lesson that Rand taught us all as partners is that we're on a long road together. 38 years Rand was with us. And the one thing that I told some of our associates and partners at a little drinking get-together following Rand's passing when we were toasting his great career and his life. And I said that honestly, I look back over 38 years of being with Rand, and I can honestly say I never was disappointed to have Rand as my law partner. He was a great lawyer. He was a kind and gentle human being. He had a fighting spirit that I admired. I remember once going into his office, office, and you had a pole axe. And if you know what a pole axe is, it's a big axe about this tall. It has a blade approximately 8 or 10 inches wide. And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Well, if the dog cometh, my pole axe shall his bane be." And I don't know where he got that, but I had to laugh. And it's the way Rand approached the practice of law. He met every challenge. He did it very honorably, and it's with a great deal of sadness that we remember his passing. But he left many lessons for us.
Thank you, Terry. Just a few memories. First, Terry, Dana, Mike, what we heard on the video from the staff. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And for me, it's the video really captured it, all of the remarks. And I always think of Rand and the twinkle in his eye. You know, I've been pretty damn blessed in my life, and particularly blessed to be able to practice law with my dad, who was a strong and a real mentor for me. But he was a mentor of the type that was follow my lead. He would lead by example, see what I do, watch me. But there's really only one person in the firm that ever taught me all the nuts and bolts of trial practice, and that was Rand. I started at the office in 1981. I was a first-year associate. Rand was the first-year partner. And he took me under his wing and would tell me what to do and what not to do in terms of depositions and practice. I remember after being there about a year, he said, "You have to go to Fred Lane's trial practice school. I went 3 years ago. It's the best school there is." And I did, and I learned so much, and we used to share his notebooks. And I continued to use it for 10 years after that. Rand, I was fortunate and lucky enough to second chair Rand in a number of trials. And he was a true master in the courtroom, and to learn from that. And afterwards, Rand and I continued to work on cases together, and he was always someone that I knew I could go talk to, who was so energized. He was so excited about the law, and to talk about the law, and to talk about the issues. I mean, from my beginning in the firm, where he would read through my direct and cross-exam outlines, and my opening statement outlines, and my closing argument outlines, and go through my voir dire. I mean, there was nobody as technically proficient in the trial practice as Rand, and he passed it on, and he was such an excellent coach, and I am so grateful. And I miss him, as we all do, and here's to Rand. Thank you. And next we have Alex.
Thank you all, and you'll hear from a couple of Wonios, so I'll start it off. And I can talk literally about just about everybody in this room. My dad would, cue us in on everything, and could make fun of all of you too, probably. How Rand did. So I'll try to be brief. I do want to congratulate Sam. You are my mom's favorite lawyer in the history of the world. That includes my dad, so congratulations as well. That's just awesome. I'll lump Ian in real quick with the group, but if my dad meant a fraction as much as you all meant to him, if he meant that to you all, then it's a monumental amount. He took a lot of pleasure in working with the young lawyers and would talk about it. He loved it, and it was really important to him. I think people casted lifelines to him when he was a young lawyer and just a young man, and it just meant a ton to him. And so all of you younger lawyers, and like I said, particularly Ian, he loved working with all of you. So he did have a message for Lane Waterman. The last day that my mom and I took my dad to the University of Iowa, we didn't know it was going to be the last day, but Dad jumped right in, and I have most of it on a recording on my phone. The good news is I started it too late, of course, but it's impossibly sad, so I'm glad I'll just have to summarize it for you. And I want to give you a tiny bit of context, but my mom and I went over there. Mom, it was a Thursday, right before Helena's wedding, and he met with Dr. Mo, and the plan was to get his next round of Keytruda. And probably foolishly optimistic, we thought, and there were some conjured up plans of getting some cocktail of Ritalin and maybe a blood infusion to make it to Helena's wedding. And the news we got was the exact opposite of that. My dad had a conversation with Dr. Mo, the oncologist, and of course it's meant a great deal to me, but I've never seen a doctor tell somebody, you're going to die very soon, and we just don't have anything for you. It was a very moving situation, and they had this conversation, and we've shared it as a family. It's wonderful, but he said to my dad, I want to give you a hug. This won't surprise anybody. My dad, with very limited energy, fires his hand out for a handshake. Dr. Mo thankfully didn't take to that and just hugged my dad anyway, but he did have a message, and it was immediately. And Mom and I talked to him just briefly. We were obviously floored. He wasn't, as you know from my discussion about my dad. He was more grateful than anything else, but he wanted to tell everybody from Lane of Waterman thank you, and it was the first things that came out of his mouth. And it was two things. It was thank you for the opportunities, and the opportunities were for him to do something that he loved, to make a living to where my mom didn't have to work, and to help people, which I thought when he said that was, that was random. I mean, he didn't do the practice of law just because he loved to fight, although that was a great ancillary benefit for my dad, but he truly did like to help people. And we can remember clients of his since we were younger that he just loved the opportunity to help people. Bob, I'm glad you mentioned something about your dad. He's kind of a folk hero in our house. My dad thought so much of him, and he talked about him all the time, about the opportunity that your dad gave him. And he mentioned that, and that was part of his thank you. And I think it echoed to all of his senior partners that helped mold him, but particularly your dad. He loved him. I'll also add this. My dad would come to Des Moines and we would talk to other lawyers and they would brag about how great a trial lawyer Bob was. And this won't surprise anybody. My dad would say, well, hell, who do you think taught him? That happened a lot of times too. So, the final thing he wanted to thank Lane and Waterman for was the friendships. This was by far the most moving part for me. I think, Dave, you mentioned the emails and how my dad had mastered that. There's no question about it. But Jason, as you know, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, he mentioned you and the friendship and the emails that you guys had. I don't even know what to say. You and I will talk about them forever. The problem with email is it allowed Rand a volume and a size of a net to run his trash talk. That should have never been allowed. And that was it. But he mentioned that, and Terry, I'm so glad you're here. He mentioned you, and it made me think, I can remember back when I was tiny on Saturdays. I thought you and my dad were the coolest guys in the history of the world. You had the office just down from his. We'd run the race cars by. I'm sure you can remember. You two are trying to work. Gene's trying to kick the kids out of the house, So it's kind of somewhat of a balance to strike. And the final one, Mike, you mean so much to the family, but my dad said to me, I want you to tell Mike and let him know he's my best friend. I didn't know Rand was allowed to have friends, number one. A wife and 8 kids. He didn't have a ton of friends like that, but he said that to me, and he wants you to know. He looked at you as his best friend. And as I sat there listening to that, I thought, that's wonderful for Mike, and I've thought so much of you forever, but there's big shoes to fill. And as others have mentioned, one of the great tragedies of this, I'm so grateful to have him as a dad, and anytime I think I've been cheated, I feel selfish about it, but you know, I've got a daughter, and we have these grandkids that aren't going to get the benefit of my dad. Breaks my heart, but bestowing the best friend pedestal, you're going to be on deck. So we look forward to you telling all the bad stories and good about my dad. My dad wasn't, as you know, proud of being a part of Waterman. Not even close. You know, he was grateful to be affiliated with all of you and be a part of that, and you know, loved all of you. He really did, and put it all in there, and he was grateful for it. I'm going to pass this on to my sister Helena.
Well, we knew Alex couldn't help himself. He just had to get up in front of you guys. And he had to make me cry right before I got up here. Spoke to everyone. So I just want to highlight a few attributes about my father that I've always admired. It just showed how he was such a great lawyer, a great leader in our community. And not only those things, but I want to tell you guys about how he was such a great dad, because I don't know that. Maybe you would know too much about that side of him. As my brother John reminded us recently, our dad was our self-proclaimed king and hero. But he was truly our king and hero. All 8 of us Wonio kids are attempting to be like him in any way that we can. For example, I'm the 4th Wonio to complete law school. The other 4 are very fortunate that they didn't take that literal path in following my father.
Smart.
Very smart. You know, my legal experience this far, I'm just a few years out. But I want to say how vastly different it is from my father's. I live in Michigan. Bar exam is tougher there. It is. I could tell you how hard it was for me, but I might be embarrassed. The legal competition is really fierce. There's tons of law schools. Jobs are hard to come by. And the actual practice of law is a grind. And I'm sure it is here too. But I worked in Detroit for a little while. And on Fridays, downtown Detroit, motion day, I would describe it to everyone and say, you could just see lawyers swinging from the rafters down there. They would hand associates 10 files and tell us to go run 10 hearings at 9 a.m. So, if that tells you anything. My experience is so much different than my father's because he had LW. This was his first job out of law school, and he stayed here the entire time. This law firm, enabled him to be able to do the practice that he wanted to do. And I know he felt very fortunate for that. He got to help individuals and really help people. He enjoyed his co-workers. He enjoyed the culture here. And I hope Vicki gets to see a recording of this, but she's a very loyal, faithful assistant to him. So I know he truly loved working at Waterman. And like everyone said, it was the little things. He loved the support staff and the associates and being a mentor. Like I said earlier, he was a great leader in our great lawyer. And I think that there's 3 attributes that he possessed that made him a great leader. One is that he stayed relevant. He differentiated himself from other people, and he was very authentic. He was relevant because he understood his audience. He knew people. He knew why they did the things that they did. He knew why they said things and, did everything. I think someone mentioned he had a humble upbringing. And I don't know if many of you know this, but I was trying to remember all of my dad's odd jobs before he decided to go to law school. He works, I think, probably 30 different types of jobs before he decided to go on and, be a lawyer. One of them was he was a bus driver. I think he got fired from that job because he was racing another bus driver or something like that. He was a manager at the Pizza Hut. He brags about how many pizzas he could get out and cut up and get on the tables and, he worked at a cottage cheese factory. And these go on. I'm only giving you the silly ones. He was a pin monkey. And then he also, which I was surprised about, I don't think I knew this until this past summer, but he would repossess cars as well. What? That's just so confusing to me, but that's what helped him stay relevant. He knew people, and he loved people, and had that humble upbringing and that vast work experience. But he also was very well learned. He was well read. He read books every single night, and he continued to do that until the day he died. I think one of the things on his bucket list was reading the entire works of Shakespeare. And I saw him doing that one day in his man room, and he was actually taking notes while he was reading. What a nerd, but he never stopped, and he never stopped learning. Those are the things that made him humble and empathetic and kept him relevant. Differentiation. He stood apart from everybody. That's another thing that struck me about my dad and how I think he's a great leader. He was very honest. He made sure to tell the truth all the time, and it got nailed into our heads over and over and over and over and over. And we're very grateful for that. Because I think everyone in this room can appreciate how hard it is to tell the truth in every single situation, whether we want to admit it or not. Another thing that made him stand apart is by doing things in the community that I, as a young lawyer, haven't really seen too many other lawyers do. He was at the Little League fields every spring and summer my entire life, and he just loved that sort of thing. He loved refereeing high school basketball games, which, what kind of lawyer wants to do that every Saturday night? What else? And, he was a confirmation sponsor for many of the kids he coached in Little League. And these are the random aspects of his life that I think benefited his career. I know he gained a few clients from doing things like that. So he stood apart in a lot of ways, not just those I mentioned. And then lastly, he was authentic. Everything he did was with intention. He communicated in his own way. He was very straightforward, very blunt. When I was in 7th grade, I'll tell you a quick story. I was failing math class. And he was taking me home from basketball practice one night. And he stopped the car and he says, "Lena, I got a call from your teacher, and I know that you're failing math." Or I was getting a D or something. And he just very matter of fact, he was like, "I'm not going to tell your mother this, but you're going to get a tutor, and you're going to get your grades up, and that's it." That's how he spoke to us, and that's how he faced every difficult decision. I think someone mentioned that when he was like that at meetings, he was the moral compass, he faced everything head on. And he did that with everything. That unfortunately was not the only secret we kept from my mom. I know that there's probably a lawyer in this room who may have helped me get out of a couple jams here and there. So, I trust them with my secrets.
Not Sam, Mom, don't worry.
No, thank goodness. Apparently they're friends, so. There's just a couple reasons I felt compelled to speak to you tonight. One is that I just recently got married, and I know my brother had started to talk about this. I planned the wedding before my dad got sick. And it was going to be in Michigan. And he really held on, I think, to be alive for my wedding. And I think that is just the biggest example to me of how he was just such a great man. He was so sick and just horrible for a while there. And then when my mom and brother met with Dr. Mo, I know that Dr. Mo gave us a little miracle so that he would at least be around for me to get married. He kept him alive for that week. So that's one of the main reasons I want to speak to you. And then also, I wanted to tell everyone here tonight that I am pregnant and my child is, I know that sounds weird, but my unborn child's due date is the day before my dad's birthday. So with any luck, we'll have a little ram reincarnated for us mid-July. So the story is not over. They're still here. I know this is a very awkward way to end my speech, but anyway, thank you so much. Congrats to Sandy and Abby. And then I wanted to say this. It's just thank you so much for inviting our whole family to be here. It means so much to us to connect with those that he spent so much time with and people that he really loved. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate this. This is over the top. Take care of my dad. So I just want to finish by saying thank you from the Wonio family for inviting us. So my friends were asking me, what am I doing this weekend? I'm like, oh, I'm going to my dad's retirement party. And everyone's like, how's that possible? I'm like, my dad's firm has invited the whole family. Everyone thought that was so cool. So thank you very much for that. I want to thank the firm for your support while my dad was sick. The work to get the ball field named in his honor means so much to my family. Vicki was instrumental in that, so I'm sorry she can't be here tonight, but we thank your whole firm for that. And then finally, thank you for your support after my father's passing. Mike Edwards mentioned you, but you've been instrumental in the Wonio Foundation scholarships for Pony League players that came out of Davenport East. I know Scott's doing pro bono work for a charity that my mom's interested in. So it's just what I know of, and I'm sure there's more stories than that. So I really appreciate it. My family really thanks your firm for the culture you've developed to allow an hour to talk about my father in the same night that we're celebrating a new partner. So congratulations for that, and we really thank you. So.
Kurt, thank you. I want to thank you very much. Alex, Mike, Terry, Bob. We could all share our thoughts and remembrances of a wonderful friend and colleague. And we could go on all evening. And we have the opportunity to go on all evening, I should say, because when this gathering adjourns, there is an after gathering of sorts that will take place at the bowling alley down in the lower level. And everyone here, and particularly all the members of the Wonio family, are invited to join us for the continuation of the party and the celebration. And it is indeed a celebration of Rand and everything that he was able to accomplish, and a celebration of our newest partners. And it's fitting in the sense because, you know, Abby and Sam, and Abby in particular, as a trial lawyer, used to go in and out of Rand's office, and I'm sort of like the traffic cop, and I can see everybody go by. So, but it's, the things that are said tonight are so emblematic of what he is, but more importantly, I would like to think that it is an expression of our values. And in Rand's case, it's the highest level of what we value and what we should be and what we try and aspire to be as a firm and as lawyers, and most importantly, as mentors. Because our responsibility in the final analysis is to raise the next generation, whether it's of lawyers or of family, to be as much or better than we are. And Rand certainly embodied that in every respect, and is a great mentor to us all for what he was able to achieve in the short time that he was there. So I have a couple more things that I would like to share with you before we adjourn. And the first is that so we made a gift and a commitment to St. Ambrose University in memory of Rand to name a Rand Wonio 1973 conference room in the Falwell Pre-Law and Leadership Studies Center to honor Rand's legacy and his dedication not only to the practice of the law, but to St. Ambrose University. And as we all know, Rand did a lot at St. Ambrose in mock trial and in programs for them. So we felt that it was fitting for us to be able to initiate this remembrance of Rand at St. Ambrose, his alma mater, for him. And so, Gene, I think you're aware of that. No, but that it is. We've made the gift, and it's been established at St. Ambrose, and I have an acknowledgement from Sister Joan thanking us for it, and anybody else is willing to add to that is welcome to do so. But it is so we have the Rand Wonio conference room there, which will be a permanent memorial in Rand's honor and in recognition of what he did not only as a lawyer, but as, more importantly, as a mentor to others who were aspiring to practice law or to otherwise be great citizens of the world, and that's everything that he represented. Finally, Gene, I'd like you to come up, because we have, just step up here for a minute, because we have we have something that we'd like to just to share with you, and this is that when a lawyer joins Landon Waterman, we put up a bronze nameplate, and when a lawyer leaves Landon Waterman, we take that nameplate and give that to the retiring or departing attorney. So in this case, we would like you to have Rand's nameplate to share and to remember all the great things that he did for us.